So we'll get started with our module 4. So let me share my screen. I'll show you how to create a, let's take you have, consider you're actually getting 10 employees from your different system, how to split each and every message and post that message differently. We'll see some more deep dive transformation logic on SCP, how to do that one. And also we'll see what is the usage of converting from XML to JSON, how that conversion works. I can show that one too. So then coming back to configuring the mail adapter and all those things, and other information such as what are different types of logs are available in your SCP system. We can talk about that one. So, and also like in our previous session, we covered about simulation of an iFlow. Like you can simulate exact steps. So I can start my simulation point here. I can end my simulation here. So in between, I can play a simulation. So this will help me to during my simulation. It allows me to add a payload, add a message header, everything. Like in this one, like the message is getting simulated, it will show you what is the property it has been simulated, what is the message it has been simulated. If you come here, like you will see how is your message has been delivered here. So everything you can see as part of your simulation. So if you want to add somebody, you can add somebody also. Like you can add your inputs. Like if I want to pass a authorization header, like you can have this. So this simulation will help you to do your local development. So I can define a basic auth, something like base64 encoded value, something like this. So then you can actually add this one, click on OK. So again, if you replay, the same values will be cost. So so whenever you design a bigger iFlow or a bigger process, so your simulation is a way that actually can simulate that particular input, and you can check the output at each and every step instead of deploying your process every time. So that's the beauty of simulation. So then we talked about some more topics on how to see, especially your, if you go to my content modifier, like I'm here at my manage integration content, where it's a monitoring. If you come to your monitoring tab under integration and APIs, you see a lot of information. So your MPL log. So this is called as your MPL log, message processing logs. Your message processing logs, by default, your monitoring tool will have all artifact information and on which are failed in the past 1 hour. And also like it brings, if there are any retry messages, if you use JMS, how the message will get retried. And also like on your third one, like this will show you all the completed messages. So we will see how to set the message completed, and we will also see how to set the message failed, and we will also see how to set the messages in like retry in the coming sessions. So then coming back to your like integration, manage integration content here, like as I mentioned, you can see all your integration which are deployed, and you can actually change all your log level. Like especially we talked about the log, various log level. Like info is the normal log that actually you want to print a message. If you set to none, like when during the runtime, so let's take an example. You have plenty of, consider you have 1,000 iFlows. So, but you have only one tenant as your runtime tenant. But you don't want to see the message processing for each and every message. So then you can set it to none. But there might be a requirement. I might be interested only in case of any error occurred in a particular thread. Then you can set to error. So this will show the only errored messages for a particular. So these are the importance of different level of logs. So then debug is to debug the entire integration flow model and how your flow is completely designed. Trace is something like it will bring you the higher level of information, like it will bring the debug mode log level, as well as it'll actually show you the traces, like how the payload got penetrated from one step to another step, what are the various headers has been set, what are the various exchange properties been set, and how those values got exchanged between multiple components. So trace is the next level of log information you can check. So this is various information that you might be seeing on your SCPA logs. So then we talked about the log. So like if I have this logs now, how do I actually send this logs to an API? So there are some API. So if you go to integration content, so integration content has multiple API components. Go to that. In your ap.sap.com, you have multiple API components. This is your entire API documentation. But if you go to api.sap.com, integration content. So this is your OData V2 API. This brings in for your entire SAP Cloud Integration API reference or API documentation. This brings you to bring the discover information of your API. Then if you have something on the design mode, it will bring all the API information, runtime artifacts, value mapping information, adapter information, and also like you have your logs for your resource consumption data and your what is your runtime message processing logs. Everything you can actually get it from this API, and you can actually see your what is the build and deployment status of your particular iFlow ID. So this will be in general, this will be captured in any of the solution like Logily or you can use Power Connect or Aventra. So they will have a separate batch or scheduler. So this is something, this batch or scheduler is on like it's on demand pull. And this will go and pull the API, go and pull the log data and other related information through an API, and it push the data to Splunk signal effects, or it push the data to any of the APM tool. So this is what actually how the logs can be integrated into a single thing with this end-to-end monitoring. Let's take if you want to implement a like dynamic tracing or like you want to implement end-to-end tracing, a distributed tracing in your landscape. So you can use this API to pull the logs and push it to any of the APM tool. It could be any of your APM tools. Like yeah, this is a major importance of your logging system. And also we talked about versioning of your integration flows. So let's take an example. You have multiple paths, like I have a production support path, I have a release path. So if I have multiple paths, so if I want to switch, I want to do a development in one version and I want to transport another version. You have to be very much careful in choosing which version you want to do the development. So example, like you can switch between multiple versions. So you can switch between multiple versions in this complete API. Like you can switch any of this API, but it is a good practice whenever you save anything as a version, it is always recommended to save the commit so that actually it will be easy for you, for other developers in the team to revert back to the right version or switch it back to the right version and do their proper either testing or it could be a proper development. So that this versioning helps you a lot in maintain your entire package information or entire iFlow artifact information and right status. So this version, the whatever version you are storing, and the same version should be moved to the higher landscape. So then if you want to come down to a lower version or if you want to introduce a new version, then the other developers should be careful in switching and moving the transport across. So for transport, we use always CTS plus. So like you can actually click on transport here. I think this object is locked. Let me release this lock. Okay. So you can use CTS plus to transport all your objects from one landscape to another landscape. So in this way, your entire transport management will be completely managed. So this is about your transport management, and actually you can check your whether your transport management is configured in your system here. Like if I have a proper licensing version, and I can come and see my transport management, like what is the transportation mode it's been set, and you can check all your list of transport which are coming here. So like here, since I do not have the proper transport mode, like I cannot see. But if you have a proper transport mode, you will be using CTS plus and you will be importing the transport across the systems. So this is another one for your movement of your iFlows from one landscape to your higher landscape. Yeah. So now in this session, like we will see some more components. So in SAPI, and also we will see various components that is available in your monitoring tab, especially. So we have seen components under security control. We have seen some components under variables and storage. Then we have seen like JMS queues and everything. And also there is something for logs, especially for system logs. System logs can bring two to three different files. We will see in detail in this session. So then before do deep diving into that one, like let me explain some more concepts in SCPI, like if you want to design a robust iFlow, so what are the various components that you can actually design? So the same iFlow, so I can consider like I'm going to form an XML payload. With that XML payload, my requirement is to consider this an employee information, and this employee information has to be sent to a system like SuccessFactors, or I have to send it to Workday. But I cannot send all the employees at a time. There is API limitation. I have to send one API at a time. So in that case, you can use a component called splitter. So there is something called splitter. Yeah. So splitter has multiple options. So it has EDA splitter for when let's take if you are dealing with any EDA messages, EDA splitter takes a role. And general splitter, we are going to talk about that. We are going to actually simulate that general splitter now. So then coming back to IDOC splitter, whenever you use an IDOC message, then it is recommended to use IDOC splitter. So, and also you have something called iterating splitter. So iterating splitter is something like whenever you have message 100 messages, it automatically iterates the count by itself, and also it produces a unique value in your payload also. That's the usage of iterating splitter. Then PKCS is the splitter is for your, these are all your, consider an example, you have PGP encryptors. So PGP and PKCS are encrypted methods. And if you want some PK, especially the PKCS encryption has a header as well as a payload segment into two different content paths. So if you define that entire encrypted message in a proper splitter path, then you should be able to split which is the right content that you want to send it to your target, and your rest message can be encrypted message can be eliminated. So that's the usage of your PKCS splitter message. Then tar is a file format. So even I have 10 tar files, I can split the 10 tar files using splitter and gather. And if I have a zip content, so especially whenever you deal with SuccessFactors integration, especially onboarding integration, it has more zip content that you have to extract from the system and you have to send it to your consumer. But whenever you query a particular, because those API will be retrieved based on per day data. So whenever you query that API by per day, by last modified date, especially it should be from Monday, it should be a per day data. And once you put this one, this will bring all the information that has modified for a particular date. And each and every employee will have its own zipped content of some onboarding data. And those data has to be zipped one by one. Then you can actually zip a splitter and gather. But to make it just to simulate this one very easily, we will use a general splitter now. I'm using a splitter here. And just we need to be careful whenever you use a splitter, we need to use a gather. Okay, this is my splitter options. Yep. So you have two kind of expression type, like either to use export if it is a XML based payload, or to use line break. So line break is just you have to define when you have to break that particular payload. Like your line break can be your text file information. Like you can send a text file information that if you want to break, that you can actually tell at what component you need to break that component. So that's the usage of line break. But if you use XML payload, you can use export expression. Like if I have a deep structure, if I want to send one by one, then I can use a definite path. And once I have that path, like if I want to use any parameters, like in this case, I'll show you first this how this payload is getting extracted. Then I will show you how we can actually even extract one by one parameters and set it in the exchange property using export. So let me form a payload first. Employees. And under that, I have multiple employee. Okay. So I'll just put 5 employees. Then my last name. Then my employee ID. Okay. So then I'm printing 3 more employees. Okay. So I have all these 5 employees now. So now if I want to get one by one payload, I have to define export. I'm going to use /employees, then employee. Okay.
Hey, you know, ZaranTech now offers SAP corporate training. That's right. Train your workforce in SAP with our comprehensive program. We offer customized courses, certified trainers, and hands-on labs for both individuals and businesses. Our standout features? Bespoke training, fully configured servers for practice, in-house materials, and a dedicated LMS. Plus, get session recordings and 24/7 support. From functional to technical modules, we have got it all. Choose ZaranTech for SAP training and watch your team excel. Learn, upskill, succeed with ZaranTech.
So I'm going to give the grouping one by one. And also I'm telling like it has to stream continuously, that is streaming. So parallel processing is something like if you want to execute everything parallelly, then you can enable parallel processing, but make sure like your worker node is not completely occupying other process utilization. So this is where this parallel processing within CPIs has to be used only whenever there is a definite requirement of using parallel processing. Otherwise, streaming should actually will take the same time as your parallel processing. Like you will get your response as immediate as possible. And stop on exception. So whenever you see any exception, whenever you're getting any exception, like you might get exception while making a system call, or if you have a mapping component, you might get an exception. So like in such cases, like if you want to stop and capture the exception then and there, then you can use stop on exception. But if you think like I want to pass all the employees, but actually I want to capture that exception and send us an alert later, that is also possible. Like you can capture that, you have to remove this one, then you have to just set streaming exception. Whenever the exception occurs, then it will come to your exception subprocess, then everything will be captured there, and you can store all the content in a variable, then you can send at last an email. So we will see, try to cover that scenario, like all your how to capture the exception also. Like if I implement a splitter like this, then you have to make sure like how you're going to gather the data. So there are multiple ways of gathering. Okay. So your gathering can be your single XML, same format combined, XML, different format combined. Okay. It could be your plain text. So when you put plain text, so everything will be printed in a same value and same format. Okay. So then now I send this information from one payload to one step to another step. So now we are getting the data also from one step to another step. So now before I set the data from one step to another step, so let me use some XPath in between. I can use some XPath in between and retrieve the data after I split the data, and I can even set the data after my complete response. So like I go here, I'll introduce one more content modifier. Okay. Consider you need first name and last name. So as a name and then actually their employee ID. So then you can collect as AMP first name. So it's going to export source value is slash input double slash, because since we are already under employee sector, then slash name slash text. Okay. Then we can actually print the same thing for your last name. So make sure you give all your name without spaces. Last name, export, last name, and your text. Okay. So in the content modifier, I retrieve all the content. So then additionally, so previously, if you remember, like we are setting the step name and we are logging this one. Now I can actually put my step name totally different when it comes. So I can use expression. So we will see multiple expression how we can use. So like one expression is, since it's coming from the property, I can print $property dot your previous data is name, then space, you can give us details. Okay, so now the same thing will be sent there. So now you can remove this variable since we already given here, like you can remove this one. And I'm enabling the payload logging as yes to change your configured value. Okay. So then the same payload will be sent here, but I'm going to form the payload here. So this is just an example how you can actually form a body with your content modifier. Since the type is already expression here, okay, now I can type the so my expression is going to be always a property element. So $property dot, yeah. So in terms of expression, like if you want to access your property, you have to put $property dot followed by the value. If you want to access your header, just instead of header, like you need to put a property, just replace with header, then it will come as dollar header dot your actual value. So then I'll give some space. Okay. So then I'm going to print the employee ID. And these expressions are nothing but camel 2.2 expression. So we will see in the content, but as real time, you have to use your expression by putting a dollar parameter. Dollar is something like expressions are written in a camel server side scripting. So you have to access those variables using using a dollar sign, and you should be able to use in your flow effectively. Okay. So then EMP So then I can put my employee ID here. Okay. Now employee ID is set. Now I'm logging the script as usual. Then I'm sending this payload to gather. So gather will send some response, and even actually we will put additional things later. Like so in the gather, we are aggregating everything as a plain text. I'll show you various ways of gathering also. Like one is with let us gather with same payload with combine text combine. Okay, another one is because since it's not a tar and zip, we cannot do that one. Export is we are not doing any complex deep structure. This is not applicable for us. So like we can take a simple example of XML, same format combination. We can see that one. Different format combination also we can see that example. Also, we can see if it is a plain text. So plain text also we can just use concatenate method. Yeah, let's start with XML same format method. So now let us save this as a version. Let's gather it. So it's telling some issues. Let's see what is the issue. So when we use export, we need to define data type. So in general, so the data type will be java.lang.string, and string should be in uppercase. Yes, should be in uppercase. So export, whenever you define export, explicitly it asks for data type. Others, it's not mandatory, but for export, your data type is mandatory to use. Okay, let us save and check whether this error is out. Yeah, this error is out now. Now let us save as a version. Okay. So now, before we simulate the payload, let me test this payload is the right XML. So now formatted. There is some problem with the intact. I believe this is one. Yeah, agree. Yep. Now this is the right payload. Copy this payload. We'll deploy this integration. We'll get the endpoint of this one. Yeah. Okay. I got the payload minus XML. Let me generate a new token, or we can use the same. And this is going to be a post method. Since we are actually sending the payload, it should be a post method. So now I will enable the trace, and there is a add-on also, Google add-on also to enable the trace at TypeFlow level. That add-on has a bug at this time, but actually I'll show you in coming sessions how to install the add-on. So that is really very, very helpful when you are designing a bigger icon. And I got some error message. Let us see. It's failing at the splitter only. So I'm not sure the server is a bit slow. Let me go from here. Yeah, this is back. So, yeah. Copy here and paste it here. Okay. Save as version and deploy it one more time. So it's deployed and test mode is enabled. So let's go ahead and hit this one again. So now it should print all my output values. Since you have 4 different payload, you will print four different values. Let's see how it is getting executed. It's failed again. Yeah, it's completed now. So deployment took some time, but it is completed now. Let's see the traces. So if you go to the trace mode, if you click on your general splitter, you should see the number of occurrence, how many times it occurred. So starting from this one, this is your first splitter. And if you see this content modifier, now you will have this payload, like the first payload is splitted here. Then coming back to the script, this will have the final output is like this. So then if I go to second payload, this will have the data like this. And coming back to your third one, this will have the information like this. Coming back to your fourth one, this will be like this. The combined payload will be like this. Since it's same payload, all your message will be concatenated at the same level. And let me show you, because this is when you use a gather, you'll get this multi-map message merger, like because you are merging multiple content into the same, you will have this namespace printed. But if it is a different one, it'll actually print with a different one. Let me show you the payload. Like if you see this payload, this will have the multi-message component, and all your payload will come under the same namespace. But when you define a different one, each and every information will be printed with a different component. I show the difference on that one. All your employees will come under the same multi-message component. But if you choose a component as different payload, I'm going here and I'm actually defining the component as different format, and I'm saving this as a version. We have that format change. So then let me print the payload this time, because each and everything will print with the device content. Yeah, let's wait for 30 seconds, like it will get deployed. Yep. So now it got deployed. let's see the output. Yeah. See, this is your output, and this output has different message components. Since it uses a different one, like message 1, message 2, message 3, so you'll have 4 messages. Yeah. So you have another option, which is combined. And let's see the runtime, how it is. There in the MPL logs, and this is, you see, like all your employee data got printed perfectly with their name and what is the timestamp that is involved. Okay, so like you can use expression whenever you want to pass something. Like this is a kind of effective usage of expression. You can use dynamically to send multiple values of expressions. Okay, I'm going to change another one to now concatenate. Okay. So whenever you use a plain text, and if you use a concatenate, so your message will be you'll be receiving only this message, but this will not be encapsulated with the final data. So in order to encapsulate with a proper XML format, we have to use a separate content modifier to use this one. Like whenever you use gather, you should be very sure like you need to use a content modifier at the next step to formulate under let's say if you don't want any namespaces to be done and you want to have your own XML to be formed, then it is better to use this combine and concatenate method, and this will print everything as is plain. Then you can put your content modifier. So content modifier, put the content modifier, then use the expression to append the body into your final outcome. So I'm putting EMP details. Then I'm going to put as dollar in dot body. This is another expression, dollar in dot body. So this will print whatever body that is getting printed in your gather, the same body will be transformed here. Let's check so that this formatting once. For this formatting is perfect. Like now let's go and deploy this source version. And in your real time, you can use your proper naming convention. This content modifier is to initialize parameter. For example, right? Like I can set some example how this has to be named. Like I can put as initialize parameters. So this will help other developers to start their coding perfectly. And this is something like this. You can keep it as general splitter, or if you want to name it as employee splitter, also you can do it. Right, then this is something like extract employee data. Extract data. So then it's a request to query. You can define system with what pay, something like that. You can have a proper naming convention so that your iflows are neat and clean. So then this is nothing but your form EMP data. So then Groovy is to log your gather. You can keep a simple gather only, and then just final concatenated output. Okay. So now you can save as a version, and then you can deploy it. Okay. So now this is deployed. Let's give 30 seconds. Yeah. It's deployed now. Yeah. So now you can see the output like this: employee details, employee data, and everything will be printed in this. So this way, like you can use a content modifier very effectively, and you can send the information one by one, and then you can actually extract the required details. Because in general, what is the response that is coming out of your call, people will be taking that one. So for simple example, I took the same input data, but in your real time, you can actually get your XML output from here and use the expression and your export, extract the value, and then send the value to your final target system. For target could be you can send us an email, or you can send us SFTP data as a file. Like you can send anything here, and actually this how it makes everything very simple and easy when you use splitter and gather. So the main usage of splitter, right? Like if you have 100 employees, if one employee got failed, you cannot actually track in 100 employee. But if you splitter and gather, you can actually capture which employee information got failed, and you can capture as part of exception sub process, and you can send as a separate one. I'll show you in the same flow how we can enhance further from here. So this is about your simple split and gather. Then we'll cover some more content on expressions, then value mapping table, then exceptions of process, then come up with others, like we'll capture one by one. So coming back to the expressions, let's see what are various expressions that is available. Yeah. So in general, like so now we have seen all the expressions, how it is been done and how it is we are getting that expressions, right? Like so in exchange property, you can get the expression of your exchange ID and exception ID, like what is exception, and in the exception, like what are the messages, like it could be your exception message, it could be your exception ID, it could be your exception header data. So like we can retrieve all those things. And in your same exchange property, in exchange section, you can actually retrieve exchange property. And if you define any MEP, so MEP is nothing but modified exchange property information. So those can be also retrieved here. So if you modify a number of exchange property value, that also you can actually retrieve from here. And in message, you can print your header data, and also you can actually print your attachment. And in body, like in the message, you can print with your exchange property, you can actually print the body of your message. So these are the various component that is available in overall iFlow design. And using this component, you can write an exchange property and print that data. Okay. So then, yeah. So it is a common container for the like elements, like you can get your expression, you can write your expression at your header section. You can write your expression at your property section. Like we actually played around with the property segments. Like we introduced expressions here. Like you can write just how we created XPath. The same way we created your expressions here by putting a dollar property. The same way we can actually put this in your header also, and we have written some expression in your body also. Like so, these are your sections that you can write your normal expression, and also you can write your expression, also your attachments. Like if you want to send an attachment, especially this expression come into play when you're using an email adapter. In an email adapter, if you want to send some content over there, like with a expression, you write some expression in your email adapter and send some email content over there. Okay, so these are the various expression different languages. But actually, if you type Camel Apache expression in Google, Camel Apache expression language. So this is your general Camel Apache expressions. If you come here, we have plenty of expressions. In that one, we need to choose CX, simple expression. SCPA uses always a simple expression. Yeah. So these are your various expression methods and body that you can actually easily write. SCPA, in this one, SCPA is not using everything. It is using very limited one, but mostly in your iFlow, you will be using this $header, $property, $in body. So like this is a commonly used, like commonly it is 99%. This will be the most used expression. We are not using anything more complicated here, because if you use more complicated, you need to import a lot of SDKs over there. So if you want to manipulate different expression into your iFlow, and if you want to leverage some external functions, then you need to use either Groovy SDK or it could be a Java SDK. Then you can create your own expression. Then actually, like if you want to use as much as possible simple, like you can use a simple expression that is available to you, and this is a way that we are creating those expressions. Like, and also I have showed you how to leverage your common export data. Like so if you see here, like we have written export data to get the data out of the payload, XML payload. But the only point is that whenever you say export, you should be making sure you are declaring all the data types perfectly. Otherwise, you will see a lot of errors. Okay, so then in Groovy also, what if you define any expression, like if you define any property, that can be accessible. So like we have seen that example in our previous thing. If I go to my script again, I can use this properties, like I can use this SDK libraries of get body. It will get me the body as string, and if I want some property to be accessed, I have to put message.get property. Then I can define individual property name, and the same thing applies for your header, like get headers. It will bring all the headers, and you can individually assign some variable and print the values subsequently.
What sets ZaranTech apart in SAP corporate training? It's our unique blend of expertise and innovation. We offer customized courses tailored to each client's needs, ensuring relevant, targeted learning. Our vast trainer database brings you wisdom from the best in the field. Need resources? Access our extensive training material repository anytime. We are all about measurable results, providing detailed student metrics to track progress. And we don't just teach, we build community. Join our thriving social media network, connecting learners beyond boundaries. With ZaranTech, You are not just training, you are transforming your SAP expertise.
So this is about all your expressions as well as accessing the expression in different ways. And also you can use the same expression in your XSLT also. So that's what, like, if you see in XSLT, there is one more. I can show you one example. How in one example in one of my project, how I was using in XSLT to define that parameter. Like in your Ruby, you will be accessing this parameters, get properties, set property, and everything. When it comes to XSLT, it is. Let me show you an example of how it is written in XSLT. Give me a second. I believe most of you are familiar with XSLT, and actually you have. Let me share my screen shortly. Like, I'll get the relevant XSLT which has that parameter. Yeah, just give me a second. Let me share the screen. Yeah, this is one example. So where if you want to use the same any of the exchange property, example in our case, like the exchange properties are coming, especially if you want to access any of the expression languages, like it could be your exchange property, it could be your header, or it could be your body. So body will be coming by default to your method, but actually if you want to access any of your exchange property, we have to use this way. Yeah. So if you go here, like everything will be declared as a parameter, and this parameter will be accessed directly using a HCA component. So this is a SAP predefined library component. So where you will have HCA HTTP SAP.com.it. So this brings your entire namespace to retrieve either in your property or header. Once you declare as a parameter, and this will, once you declare as a parameter, by default this will go and search in your directly in your exchange property. Once you declare as a header parameter, it will go and search in your header value. So like we have to, once you, if anything is sitting in your exchange property that if you want to access, you can use this one and you can use in your XSLT completely. So rest all like Groovy we have seen, and actually we have seen in other content modifier how to access that one. So this is like general about expression, and all the expressions are available in this Camel Apache library. So SCP is using simple expression, and you can actually go and search all the expressions are available and can use most effectively in your designing your flow. So now I'll show you another one simple example how to use value mapping table. So before I go too far about value mapping table, like first I will tell the concept why you need a value mapping table. So value mapping table you might be using in your PO world also. So value mapping table is something like I have a value as A and my partner target value mapping like B is needed, like my target system B need to map, like if I received a value as 1100, I need to map as some org name. Like it could be like if I get ID as 1100 or my company code as 1100, I need to define a different org name. My target system understand a different naming convention. So then it is better to, because these values are going to be static and this is not going to be changing very randomly. So in that case, you will be using a value mapping table. But value mapping table can be used in two ways. So in your iFlow, you can leverage your value mapping table either in example, you can use your actual graphical mapping and you can do the same thing, or you can actually use other components such as nothing but your Groovy and JavaScript. So using a Groovy and JavaScript is also another way of accessing a graphic, your value mapping table. But I will show a simple example how to use your value mapping table effectively with the same XML. Like now I will actually use the same example. I'll leverage something from here. So in my payload, I'm going to introduce something called company, or I'll introduce something called org ID. So we will use a value mapping. We'll create a value mapping table for this one, and we will leverage let's take my org ID is 1100. So then I have another org ID as 11110. Another is this they belong to the same org ID, and I have something on 130. So now this is my payload. For this payload, I need to form a definite value. Like I need to form a different value. Like I can, because once it comes here, it's going to be splitted one by one. For this one, let me form XST just to create in a graphical. Let me import that as part of my XST. I need to introduce one more thing also. This hot guiding. I'm saving this file. Okay. So now I'll go to CPI. In CPI, let me upload this content. Now the XST is imported here. Okay. So now you can bring your value mapping table. Before you consume your value mapping table, let me put a graphical mapping. Once you click on here, you can see your nothing but a message mapping. Message mapping is nothing but your graphical mapping. Stretch a bit. Then this is not the global one. Just create one mapping. Just making something like EMP workday to EMP SF map. Okay. Add your source. Click on OK and add your target. So everything will be same for now. And map everything. Org ID is a field that we are going to change actually. So let's have like this for now. Let me do a graphical. First, let me create a value mapping table for this one. Go to your design mode, go to integration flow, value mapping. And I'll give the employee details, value map, VM. Okay. And I'll create this one, this content. Now I'll go inside this content. Let me add the agency at the source and agency identifier at the source, agency identifier at the target. So source is agency is nothing but your day and identifier is org name. Here it's going to be your agency's success factor. Your identifier is company or code. Here it's going to be company name. So now let's add the values. For payload 10000, we'll add as company something like Apple. Okay. And for company 110, I'm adding company as Amazon. And for my company 1120, I'm putting as Google. So let's put for 1130 as Microsoft. These are just I'm defining the company code and its company value. Let me save as a version. So some values. Why it's not saving this one? Yeah, you have to be very careful with this one. This is small things, so we have to correct it very quickly. Okay. Let me save this guy one more time and saving as a version. There is no default value defined, but you can also define a default value. So default value can be, so as for now, let's not define anything. Let's save this guy and deploy this guy. Okay. So now it's deployed. If I go to my iFlow, if I come back to my message mapping, even this is not found. Okay. Let me recreate one more time. Second, let me upload this file one more time. Coming back to that. This file is added now. Just for the safer side, so now some options are getting refreshed very quickly. Let me save this version first. Okay. So now again, I'll come here. I'll go to my mapping. Let me add my source. This is my target too. But in the target, let me actually use a different value to populate. This is a one. Okay, this is a one. Now coming back to first name to first name, last name to last name, employee ID to employee ID. So org ID, before we map org ID, let's put value mapping. Value mapping is a default function. So this is your input. And if you click on advanced, it will ask source agency. Okay. So my source agency is Workday. I have to give the same name. Okay. And my source identifier is R code. My receiver part is SF. Okay. And then this is name is company name. Okay. So if a value do not find anything, just I'm telling use the same key, whatever it is sent, or I can even send some default value to. I can send the default value as fix. Okay. So now I can map this one to that. Okay. Now this is done. Let's test this one. Let me save this guy first to check any errors. There is no error, and I can introduce one more content modifier in between to get this company name, and I can send in my final payload. So I have to get the value after my mapping. I have to introduce one more content modifier. Company name swap job dot lang dot string, and this is going to be same like your previous, but you are going to replace this with org ID. Let's save this as a version. Before that, I can lock this as part of my payload. One more time, I'm saving this as a version. Just to be sure, before we deploy this iFlow, we have to check whether the value mapping table is already deployed successfully. Yes, this is deployed successfully. Let's go ahead and deploy our iFlow also. Yeah. So let's see whether if it is deployed successfully. Yeah. Let's trigger the iFlow from here. If you see here, like our iFlow got all the data, but everything with a special character slide. You can see why this is getting printed. Let me enable the trace where it is appended this value. Value this should be, yeah, save as a version. Let's deploy this guy. Yeah. So now if I go ahead and trigger this one, I should see the updated payload. Yes. So you can see for every ID, the relevant value is transformed using value mapping table. So value mapping is used for one-time static conversion of your data A from your source to target. So in this way, you can actually transform your entire payload and have the results printed perfectly for your requirement. So yeah. So in this session, we covered multiple topics on expressions and also all other topics too. Like just one more touch up on the logs. Like we have MPL logs as general, and also we have common logs. So let me go to the logs section in my monitoring tab. So you have, this is for message processing logs, and this is for integration content logs, and these are your security components. So now you have other logs called system log files. Whenever you whenever your CPI is running in the background, and if some consumer is hitting, and if you want to see your system generated logs, that will be available in the trace.log file. And if you want to see the incoming HTTP session threads as well as outgoing HTTP session threads, that you can see in your HTTP log file. So this log file will be updated every 5 minutes in general, but now SAP has improved to bring the log in every 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes, you can see this log, and if you see, if this log will be generally produced only if there is any change in the content. If the content is not getting updated, this log will stay as is. So this is about the system log. We will see other components like data store and other actually like using of exception handling in the coming sessions, as well as the other topics like in the module 5. So with this, we are completing module 4. We'll actually start with module 5, and actually we have 2 more days to go, and then we will cover as much as a lab exercise and some more examples on SCPI, so that you're familiar with most of the concepts in SCPI. Yeah, just actually go through this example, like this iFlow is available in your CPI tenant. Go through this, how to use expression, and also how to use value mapping, how to use effectively a lot of concepts. If possible, I'll also try to use some XSLT and show you how we can use that one. XSLT. Thank you, team. Thank you all.